Satnam. Welcome to your Restorative and Kundalini Yoga workshop. Today I will go over each of the poses in the Restorative Kundalini sequence you practiced with Jeannie. I will discuss each of the poses and their physiological and energetic benefits. I will also provide you with additional props and adaptations that you can use or offer to your students. And we will also go over the contraindications as well. So we will begin by gathering some props. I have a couple of blocks here, a couple of blankets, or towels can also work. Bolster, heart-shaped bolster, and a pillow that's a little more squishy. So that's what I have, and you're welcome to, maybe you have more props that you'd like to use, and that's also great to put into the mix as well. So, we're going to start with Siri Om. Now, Siri Om is when we're seated in an easy pose, cross-leg position. We're inhaling through the nose as we open through the chest, rounding the spine forward and the torso forward. And then we're exhaling through the nose as we round the spine back. And then continuing this circular motion of the torso. And then eventually reversing directions when it feels right. And this pose really helps improve the mobility of our hips and our mid-thoracic spine. It gives the internal organs a nice massage, which helps improve our digestion. And it is also a very grounding exercise, which is what really makes it an excellent preparatory pose for really any yoga set. Energetically, this pose awakens the urinary bladder meridian that travels along either side of the spine, as well as the liver and spleen and stomach meridians, which travel up through the mid-torso. Awakening these lines of energy helps improve our digestion and elimination. It also helps relieve anger and fear, which better allows us to go with the flow of life's changes. So let's move on to props. To make this pose more comfortable, you can sit up on a pillow or a bolster, and elevating your hips. And if you feel tension in the inner thighs or in the knees, you can also place some blocks under your knees as well to give some extra stability in your easy pose seat. This exercise can also be done seated in a chair or even in your bed for extra comfort. So now moving on to spinal twist. So in spinal twist, we're bringing our hands up to give our shoulders a squeeze. This is the fullest extension of the exercise. And the elbows are parallel to the ground. And we're inhaling through the nose as we twist to the left, the head follows. And then exhale through the nose as we twist to the right. In, out. Closing the eyes so that you don't get dizzy. Now, physiologically, twists, they rotate the spine and stretch the muscles of the back. This helps to restore and retain the spine's natural range of motion. Through twisting, we lengthen the spine and get more space between the bones. Twists also give us an instant energy lift and decompress the vertebrae in a very safe and healthy way. When we bend and fold our arms in this way, so when we're bringing our hands to kind of grip our shoulders, and we bend our arms in this way, we are gently compressing the lymph nodes inside the arm behind the elbow. This stimulation of the lymph nodes enhances the activity of our lymphatic system. Now, let's move on to what's happening energetically. So, energetically, we are awakening the liver meridian, which helps invigorate the liver. It also helps release excess heat and stagnation, as well as relieve pent-up anger and frustration, which is the emotion that we tend to store in the liver. In the arms, we are putting a gentle pressure on the acupressure points LU5, lung 5, which is located in the crease of the elbow. Now, this point, it clears away excess heat from the lungs. It frees the water passages and expels phlegm from the lungs. So much happening in this beautiful twist of the torso and the spine. Now, props and adaptations. You can elevate your hips using a pillow to alleviate any stress in your knees. You are also always welcome to come into rock pose at any point with any exercise, really. So rock pose is when we're seated on our knees, on our heels. And even in rock pose, you can bring that pillow right under your sits bones if you need to, and if you'd like to. And in rock pose, if you have any compression or discomfort in the ankles, grab a folded blanket or towel and place it right underneath the shins. That will help relieve that tension that you feel in the ankles. Okay. And again, if you're in easy pose for spinal twist, you can place those blocks under your knees as well. Now, if bending the elbows in this way is uncomfortable for your shoulders or for your elbows, you can always bring your arms into cactus-like arms with the palms facing forward. Either palms facing forward, or you can bring hands into Gyan Mudra, which is when your index finger holds your thumb finger down, and the rest of the fingers are extended upward and then facing the palms towards each other as you inhale to the left, exhale to the right. Now, moving on to contraindications. If you have a sore back due to an injury, you want to keep the back and spine as straight as possible and move slowly and gently to start. And then increase the speed if you feel called to. There's really no rush in spinal twist. If you are pregnant, spinal twists are not recommended. A pregnant woman does not want to twist or compress the abdomen. So, moving on to spinal flex. Now, spinal flex is when you can be in easy pose for spinal flex or in rock pose. I'll stay in easy pose for this one. And spinal flex is when we inhale through the nose and we round the spine forward as we open through the chest, and then exhale through the nose as we round the spine back. So in, out. And then the chin stays nice and stable, slightly tucked to elongate, to really rise through the neck here and send the crown up. So this is spinal flex. Physiologically, spinal flex warms the body. and brings flexibility to the spine. It stretches open the chest and stimulates and strengthens the abdominal organs, as well as the kidneys and adrenals in the low back. Energetically, we are awakening, again, the urinary bladder meridian, which runs along the back side of the body. The urinary bladder meridian is paired with the kidney meridian, and the kidney meridian stores some of the deepest levels of our energy. So through the stimulation of the bladder meridian, we help tone the kidneys and improve their function as well. So moving on to props and adaptations. Again, sitting on a pillow, elevating the hips. It allows us to sit up straight more comfortably. Placing blocks under the knees can help create more stability. And remember that coming into rock pose is always a possibility if it is more comfortable. Contraindications. If you have a recent or chronic back pain or an injury, you will want to take it very slow. So now moving into radiance charger. Radiance chargers, when we're bringing the arms up into like that V-shaped formation, 60-degree angle with the arms, we bring the fingers, we tuck the fingers in as if we're about to make a fist, but we're not, right into the top pads of the palms. And then the thumbs are extended up towards the sky. Thumbs are out and pointed up. Shoulders away from the ears. And then while we're in this position, the eyes are closed, third eye gaze, root lock, navel lock are engaged, and we're doing breath of fire. So physiologically, breath of fire increases our lung capacity. It strengthens the nervous system, which increases our resistance to stress. It also strengthens the belly muscles and increases blood circulation and sends fresh oxygenated blood to all of the organs. It increases oxygen flow to the brain, which improves our ability to focus and also really helps boost our immune system. Now, energetically in radiance charger, when we bring our fingers down into the pads of our palms, we are putting pressure on the acupressure points located within the crease of the fingers. These points open the sinuses, allowing us to take in more oxygen. We leave the thumb extended out. The lung meridian starts at the tip of the thumb and travels down the arm and ends right at the top of the chest. So we are opening and awakening this line of energy that leads to the lungs, but also the line of energy that leads to the heart. And we tend to store grief in the lungs, and agitation, restlessness, and depression in the heart. So awakening these meridian lines helps clear stagnant energy and allows for the lungs and the heart to function more optimally. So moving on to props and adaptations, you can bend the arms if you need to, or bring the arms down completely if it becomes too uncomfortable. Maybe bring the hands into Gyan Mudra, again, index finger holding down thumb, and then just resting the wrists on your knees or on your lap. And then see if you can continue with breath of fire. If you feel unsure about the breath of fire, slow the breath down considerably and make sure that you are practicing equal inhale and equal exhale through the nose, as well as expanding the abdomen on the inhale and contracting the abdomen on the exhale. Contraindications. If you have high blood pressure or any cardiac issues, I recommend consulting your healthcare provider if you have any questions or concerns before trying Breath of Fire for the first time. If you are pregnant and this is not your first time doing Breath of Fire and you are comfortable with it, you can do a light Breath of Fire during the first trimester. After that, it's no longer recommended. If you are on the heavier days of your moon cycle, it may not be comfortable to do Breath of Fire because of the pressure it kind of puts on the abdomen. However, everyone's body is different. So if you're on your moon cycle, follow your own inner guidance. For me personally, I feel okay doing Breath of Fire during my moon cycle. So everyone is different though. So always tune into how you feel. Now moving on to alternate flapping elbows. So it's like when we have our hands locked and we're inhaling and exhaling along with the movement of the elbows. And in this exercise, we are working on the auxiliary lymph nodes in the armpits. And these lymph nodes are responsible for draining lymph from the breasts and the surrounding areas, including the neck, the upper arms, and the underarm area. So this is just a really excellent exercise to get the lymph moving. Energetically, we are continuously tapping on the acupressure point SP21, spleen 21, which is right around the rib area, and it's connected to the spleen meridian. This point helps relieve depression in the heart space. It helps bring a feeling of togetherness, openness, and harmony. And this point is often referred to as the motherly embrace, which I really love, because it is where we were often held or we felt our mother's embrace when we were babies, right here in that rib area. So props and adaptations, we'll move on. Props and adaptations, it really doesn't matter how far up your elbows can go. Understanding that everyone's range of shoulder is different, we are just gently tapping the rib cage, moving the lymph, and going along with the pattern of our breath, however fast that is. Really depends on how fast you want to go, but there's no rush. Now, moving on to cat-cow. So, cat and cow is when we're on our hands and knees. In tabletop. We're making sure that the wrists are in line with the shoulders, knees are in line with the hips, and inhaling through the nose as we bring the navel down towards the mat, round the spine, open through the chest, and maybe lift the chin. Exhale through the nose as we round the spine, setting the center of the spine up, tucking the chin, and exhaling. Inhale and exhale. And moving at a quicker pace or a slower pace, depending on what feels right for you and your body. And what the cat-cow does is it helps bring flexibility to the spine physiologically. It stretches open the chest, and it stimulates and strengthens the abdominal organs as well as the kidneys and adrenals. Now, energetically, this exercise is a powerhouse. When we come into tabletop, we are putting pressure on all of the acupressure points in the palms that are connected to all of the major organs, the heart, lungs, liver, stomach, kidneys, etc. All of those acupressure points are within the palms. And we are especially increasing energy flow to the abdominal organs through the stimulation of the acupressure points in the knees and through the shins, which are connected to the stomach meridian. Not to mention, this rhythmic contraction of the abdomen also stimulates acupressure points connected to the stomach meridian, which travel up the mid-torso as well. The stomach meridian improves our digestion and our process of elimination. We are also awakening the urinary bladder meridian, which runs along the back side of the body. And again, this is paired with the kidney meridian, which helps tone the kidneys, improve the function of our autonomic nervous system, and allows us to better go with the flow of life's changes. Moving on to props and adaptations. If you have compression in the wrists or tenderness in the knees when in tabletop, you can place a folded blanket or a towel underneath both of those places. So placing that folded towel or blanket right underneath the lower part of the palms to elevate that. And then if there's tenderness in the knees, you can fold the mat over to create some more cushion there. You can also place that blanket there as well. So that's an option for you. If this flexion of the neck is uncomfortable, you can always keep the neck stable, keeping that cervical spine in one line, and just move the rest of the spine. And then know that at any point, you're always welcome. Know that another adaptation to cat-cow is spinal flex. So coming onto your knees and inhaling as you round the spine forward, exhaling as you round the spine back. Cat-cow can also be done in a chair as well. If you're seated in a chair or even seated in bed, you can do a seated cat-cow. Now, if you have a neck injury, we were talking about keeping the spine and the neck stable, keeping the cervical spine stable and just moving the rest of the spine. And if you have a recent surgery or back injury, you will just want to check with your doctor. Move very slowly in and out of cat-cow. If there's any sharp pains, you don't want to continue. You may want to stop and move on to another exercise. Now coming into dead bug pose. Dead bug pose. Physiologically, the dead bug exercise is a safe and effective way to strengthen and stabilize your core and your spine and back muscles. In this exercise, come to lie down on our back. The arms are up overhead. And as we lift the left leg, we raise the right arm. And then exhale to bring them down. Inhale, bringing the right leg up. Left arm up, 90 degrees. And then exhale to bring them down. So alternating, bringing the opposite arm, opposite leg up 90 degrees as we inhale and exhale through the nose. This exercise helps improve your posture, balance, and coordination. Now, energetically, this pose is working on the liver and spleen meridians that run through the legs and the torso. This pose also awakens the heart and lung meridians that travel through the arms as we move the arms as well. This helps release excess heat from the abdomen and the heart space. And it's balancing the ascending and descending energy within the body. So keeping in mind that we want heat energy to descend to the abdomen, and cool energy to ascend up the back side of the body to the brain. Now moving on to props and adaptations. Now, if you have tenderness in the low back, you can place a rolled up blanket. Actually, you can place a bolster under your feet to help bring the floor closer up, so that way you're not lifting the legs as far up and down as you raise them. This just brings the floor up closer to you, so it's less of a strain on the lower abdomen. Now, you can also place a folded blanket under your sacrum to support your low back, or that folded towel. And then maybe a pillow under your head to help support all of the places. Now moving on to leg lifts. Leg lifts is when we're lying down on our back, grounding the entire spine down into the mat. And then lifting the legs 90 degrees on the inhale and exhaling to release them down. So inhaling right leg up, exhale down, inhale left, exhale down. Alternate leg lifts. Okay, so physiologically, this exercise, it strengthens your core and lower abdominal muscles, which can eventually help prevent low back pain. The strengthening of the core can help prevent low back pain. Leg lifts also increase the flexibility and agility and strength of the hip flexors. Energetically, again, we are working on the liver and spleen meridians, which run up the legs and up into the torso as well. And this helps release excess heat from the abdomen and allows us to process anger on an energetic level. So props and adaptations. You can place your hands, palms down under your sacrum to help support the low back. So bringing those hands into like a triangle underneath the sacrum. Finding that spot that works best for you to support the low back, and then inhaling and exhaling to lower. You can place a bolster under the heels to bring the floor up closer to, up more, so that there's not such a long way up and down for your legs to travel. And you can also place a pillow under your head to support your neck as well. So coming into spinal rolls next, let's move on to the next exercise. Spinal rolls is when we bring our knees into our chest, giving them a little squeeze, and then we just rock back and forth on the spine. Maybe coming all the way up into a seat on the way up, maybe not. Maybe just rocking back and forth like this. And remembering to inhale and exhale here as well. Now, physiologically, this pose massages the spine, keeping it nice and supple and flexible. And if you do this exercise right before going to bed, then be rest assured that you will sleep soundly, as this asana is said to have a very soothing effect. This exercise massages the spine and then relaxes the nervous system. And it also improves the connection between the nervous system and the other parts of the body. Energetically, we are working directly on the urinary bladder channel that travels along either side of the spine and through the perineum as well. The bladder meridian is stimulated when it's stimulated, it helps relieve headaches, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, knee pain, and even ankle pain. By awakening the bladder meridian and many other points that are along the back, pain can be better prevented. And it gives us this overall sense of energy and vitality when we do this exercise. So props and adaptations. If you're unable to rock back and forth on your spine, maybe try coming into happy baby and rocking side to side just to get that massage of the acupressure points along the spine. So happy baby, we're just grabbing onto our toes or our ankles or our shins or our knees, and we're just rocking side to side. This will give nice massage to those acupressure points as well. And then from there, you can always find a more easeful way to rise up. Maybe by rolling over onto your left side and then pushing yourself up, as opposed to rocking, doing spinal rolls to come up into the next exercise. So contraindications, the spinal roll should not be practiced by pregnant women in the second and third trimester of their pregnancy. If you have an existing spinal or condition or an existing spinal condition or any spinal issues, then do this very gently, or just rock side to side on your back instead in baby pose like we were talking about earlier. So moving on to the next exercise, kneeling sun salutations. So physiologically, sun salutations increase blood circulation and boost energy. Sun salutations help create strength and flexibility in the body, and they open and release tension in the hamstrings, the shoulders, and the chest area. Energetically, sun salutations boost courage and confidence by activating your solar plexus, which is believed to be the center of our inner fire. It brings clarity to your mind as the brain is flushed with fresh oxygenated blood. And we are working on all 12 of the major meridians in this exercise, which helps balance your pranic energy. Some props and adaptations. If there's compression in the wrists, again, you can place a folded blanket or towel under the lower pads of your palms. In child's pose, you can slide a block under your forehead for extra support as you rest and breathe in that position. And then contraindications. If you have a spinal disorder or a back injury, it is best not to come into those deeper flexions of the spine. There's no need to do these poses if you are in the second or third trimester of your pregnancy. And some of these because Some of these poses put pressure on the back and the abdominal organs, which is it's not a good thing for pregnant bodies. Now, moving on into child's pose. So child's pose, and they're opening up through the knees. We're extending the arms out. We're bringing the center of our forehead onto the mat. Then breathing deeply here. Now, child's pose gently stretches your spine, the thighs, hips, and ankles. Along with that, those deep breathing exercises that we're doing, child's pose can calm your mind, reducing anxiety and also reducing fatigue. Now, energetically, when we rest the center of our forehead onto the ground, we are putting pressure on the yin-tang acupressure point located between the eyebrows. This point calms the mind. It is often used to relieve symptoms of stress and anxiety. Now, let's move on to props and adaptations. You can place a block under your forehead if you have trouble breathing in this exercise. So this opens up the airways a little bit. And you're still getting that nice gentle pressure in the forehead. Slide a bolster under your hips to protect your joints. If this is becoming uncomfortable, try sliding that bolster under your hips and resting them there. Not recommended if you're pregnant. We don't want any compression on the abdomen. Maybe move that bolster down if you're pregnant. And then bringing your forehead onto the block. You can place folded blankets or towels under your knees if there's tenderness there. And then come down and see if those props help make this pose more comfortable for you. If not, child's pose can also be done in a chair. If you're seated in a chair, you can sit in front of a table, and then as you bow forward, place the center of your forehead onto the edge of the table and rest there. This helps elongate the spine, and it also puts that gentle pressure on that acupressure point that helps calm the mind. Now, coming into reclined butterfly with a bolster. So, setting up here, we're leaning back onto our bolster, allowing our head and neck to rest on the bolster as well, bringing the soles of the feet together, and then allowing them to sort of travel out away from the body. And the knees rest down, really opening up here as we breathe deeply. Opening up and allowing fresh oxygenated blood to flow to the glands of the lower extremities, opening up and stretching through the hips, the inner thighs. Physiologically, in this pose, we are externally rotating the hips, which helps increase the mobility of the hips. This stretches the groin, adductors, hamstrings, knees, chest, and shoulders. Really relaxing into this pose helps alleviate upper and lower back pain and relieves stress as well. Now, energetically, this pose stimulates the kidneys and the urinary bladder meridians, which helps reduce stress and calm the mind. And again, the bladder meridian that runs up either side of the spine. And we tend to store fear energetically in the kidneys and the urinary bladder. So this pose is just excellent for releasing that dense energy and allowing you to better go with the flow. Now, props and adaptations. You can, if you feel like your knees are falling out and you're overextending there, bring some blocks under your knees to bring the knees up. Let's do that. I lost my mic there. So just bring some blocks under your knees to elevate the knees a little bit. That provides a less of a stretch. If you're feeling too much stress in the inner thighs, we don't want that. Just a little bit of stress. You can place a blanket to cover the area below your belly button as well, since where energy is flowing there and blood flow. This helps contain that energy and allow the blood to flow more easily. You can place a nice blanket over the lower reproductive organs. If you are pregnant, it is not advisable to lie flat on your back for too long. Instead, you can practice this pose with your back supported against a wall or a higher stack of cushions. Moving on to fish pose. So fish pose, we're bringing that bolster. I have my bolster is not as dense, so I have a pillow underneath it. We're bringing that bolster right underneath the more of the mid-thoracic spine, allowing there to be kind of a stretch of the low back here. This allows our chest to open up more in this pose. Now, supported fish pose expands the chest and the throat, which helps relieve neck and shoulder tension. I'm sure that if you came into this pose, you would feel that stretching open of the chest and the throat. Energetically, this applies a gentle pressure again to the urinary bladder meridian as well as the pericardial meridian. This helps improve blood circulation to the heart and also improves the function of our digestive organs and our organs of elimination. So, props and adaptations. Try to make sure that your chin is even with or slightly lower than your forehead. So, if your head is tilted back, this pose can become uncomfortable fairly quickly. And you can remedy this by placing a folded blanket under your head and neck to alleviate that. You can also place another bolster under your knees if you would like to as well. Now, contraindications, avoid this posture If you are someone who is suffering from high or low blood pressure, or if you have a serious neck or low back injury. Now coming into deer pose, moving on to deer pose with the bolster. So, in deer pose, we're on our side. We have our bolster here, and we're resting in this way, opening up through the side body here. Feels so good, I don't want to get up. So, physiologically, deer pose gently stretches the hips and the side body, as well as the low back. This pose also stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system, which regulates our relaxation response. Now, energetically, this pose awakens the gallbladder meridian, which runs along the side body. The gallbladder meridian, or the gallbladder, is associated with the emotion of anger. It is where we store irritability and resentment energetically in the body. So, and these emotions are also stored in the liver as well. And the liver and the gallbladder contain bile. So unprocessed anger can cause headaches and hypertension, which can in turn affect the stomach and the spleen. So opening up this line of energy is so beneficial in processing these emotions, allowing energy to flow better through the liver, gallbladder, spleen, and stomach. Everything is interconnected. So props and adaptations, if you have any knee pain, you can place a bolster under your knees. I'm going to use a block. You can also use a block in between the knees. If there's any pain or tension in the knees. Now, moving on into corpse pose or deep relaxation. And this, maybe you didn't think that this would be in this breakdown of each of the exercises, but corpse pose or deep relaxation is probably the most beneficial of the poses. This pose really calms the nervous system and the mind. It helps reduce stress and it helps lower blood pressure. Now, you can place a pillow when we're in a corpse pose or deep relaxation. You can place a pillow under your head, a bolster under your knees for added comfort. Now, contraindications, if you're pregnant, roll over to lie on your side. And then you can place a bolster between your knees. So if you're lying on your side, if you're pregnant, bring a pillow under your head, bring a bolster between your knees, and allow yourself to relax like this on your left side. And then there's legs up the wall. I don't really have a wall, but I think we know what legs up the wall is. No, legs up the wall is just a really great passive pose, and it helps lengthen your hamstrings, and it also helps open the chest. And this pose, it allows your muscles to relax, and it helps calm the nervous system. When we bring our legs up the wall, it works on the kidneys and the adrenal glands. Now, energetically, we are awakening the meridians in the legs, which include the liver, kidney, gallbladder, urinary bladder, stomach, and spleen. So this is opening up the flow of energy and blood flow to these organs. Some contraindications. If you are pregnant, it is not recommended to lie on your back for an extended period of time. Otherwise, legs up the wall is a go-to. It's perfect. It's an amazing exercise. So that concludes this restorative and Kundalini yoga workshop. Thank you so much for your time, and Sat Nam, everyone.